Payout with Rock and Manooch on Fox Sports 910.
Scott Wins on Twitter at DocSports.com. How we doing today, Scott? What's going on?
Doing well, guys. Just watched a little summer league basketball and getting ready for the weekend.
I can't believe
there's so much going on in
Vegas. Yeah,
it's just unbelievable how much, and the fact that they did that. They announced the NBA that you guys are going to have that little play-in tournament in December, I believe.
Yep.
When do you expect an NBA team being announced? When do you think that's going to happen there?
Oh, my gosh. As soon as that arena gets built, they've already got the plot of land ready to go. So at the south of where the football stadium is now on Las Vegas Boulevard. So it'll be as soon as they can get a team here, they're going to have one. A couple of years left to go. But it's definitely going to be here. And, as far as this Final Four NBA thing, I mean, that's cool that it's going to be here. This summer league, I got a little info here for you guys. I remember a decade ago when all this was starting and stuff with the summer league and all that, a little over a decade ago. I think I paid like $25 to see an entire day of summer league action, and I'd go maybe a couple of days each summer. The ticket price for a fourth row ticket for tonight's WNBA San Antonio Spurs game, Wembanyama, for a fourth row ticket yesterday was going for $660.
Jeez.
That's
to see a summer league basketball game in the fourth row.
Scott, I'm telling you, Scott, this guy, we had a conversation about it. This guy has just captured the imagination, I guess, of the entire basketball world. And this is going to be, I guess, I want to be there to see it. I guess that's the only way you can describe it.
I guess. I mean, I hope he turns out to be at least close to the hype. I mean, he seems like a very intelligent kid. His interviews are fantastic, the ones I've seen thus far, and his game is obviously different than anything we've seen before at his size. So there was one thing, and this is really splitting hairs, guys. There was one thing that I heard him say about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, that I thought, boy, I would take a different approach if I was giving him advice. They asked him about, are you going to beef up? Are you going to gain some weight? And he goes, I think we should tell the rest of the league to skinny down rather than me beef up. And I'm thinking, guys like Ben, Adebayo is sitting there right now going, okay, young man, let's wait and see if he can take the knocks and get knocked around over the course of the season. And so he's fueled the fire there a little bit. We saw, and I'm not trying to compare his game to Holmgren, but we saw, a skinny Chet Holmgren come out there last year and get injured right away. Wembanyama's built a little bit better than that as far as what it looks like, his muscular structure. But again, I think he's got to beef up a little bit. He's going to find out potentially the hard way. But isn't he in the right spot? I mean, if you're going to be drafted by any team in the NBA, and there's certain, little things about your game or about your mindset that have to improve or change a little bit for the NBA, I mean, who else do you want to be, playing under than Popovich and all the guys, the Admiral, and of course Duncan and Parker, and of course Parker having played in France and been brought up in the same country. I mean, he's just in a perfect spot to excel. So hopefully he'll work hard, and he will.
Oh, I'm sure that he will. Speaking of Holmgren, I watched him a couple of games. He played 20 minutes in the game that I watched, had 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 block shots in 20 minutes. So he's
scary.
Yeah, he is, and people forgot about him because of the injury. So it's going to be a lot of fun watching OKC as well. All right, so
I'm going to admit something to you guys real quick, though, before we change topics here.
Right.
I got to admit something real quick here, that what I did, and I don't bet the Summer League, but guess who bet the Summer League tonight?
That's great.
The line opened 5, San Antonio over Charlotte. It's up to 6.5. I was able to get it at 6.
Okay.
And so I put a little pizza money on Wemby. So I'm hoping for maybe 25 minutes out of the kid tonight.
Oh, wow. Hey, I'm looking at Doc Sports, and I see the success you're having in the WNBA. I don't watch it. We don't talk about it. But if you're making money on it, maybe I should be watching it. What is it that you attribute the success you have on handicap in WNBA?
I love the fact, for one, that we get no more than 4 games per day. That's a busy day.
Okay.
So you're only handicapping 4 games, 8 teams per day. And I follow those schedules closely. I got to tell you that, I don't sit down and watch a full game normally in the WNBA, but I'll watch parts of games. And you look at schedules. We had a team I'm going to say about a week ago that had played 4 road games in about 8 days, and then they were coming home all of a sudden, and it was just one of those situations where I didn't see the road trip and a few days in between games being baked into the line, being factored into the number. And so I'd go against that and do well. But it's been a nice run for several seasons, and it's funny because it took me up until about 4 or 5 seasons ago to even start looking at it from a betting standpoint. I really didn't follow it. And then I have a couple of guys in my circle who are having success. Just started jumping in and look at schedules. And I'm telling you what, guys, there's only 3 teams that really play a serious brand of basketball, from start to finish almost every single game. And then there's those teams that'll score 26 points one quarter and 6 points the next. And, I just tend to stay away from the really bad teams unless they're in a fantastic scheduling spot. And it does happen, those spots, I think, more frequently on par for how many games they play overall than it does in the NBA. So, I don't get crazy and lay 17 and 18 points with the Las Vegas Aces every night when they're at home, but I'll look at some of those teams, that are small favorites or small dogs, and I feel that they've got a scheduling advantage.
Scott Spreitzer joining us here on Fox Sports 910 Phoenix. All right, let's. Do you get into the home run derby, the All-Star game? Do you do anything there?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're looking to bet the All-Star game, maybe the under's the way to go. Okay. I mean, we've seen nothing but low-scoring games going back to like 2010. I went back that deep. And of course, there was no game in 2020. But, I don't really tend to bet the All-Star game. Yeah, maybe I'll throw some pizza money on a total. And again, you're talking about the last, 12 All-Star games going back to 2010. The average total runs scored is less than 6. And the average... And by the way, if you take out the 2018 game, which the American League went to 8-6, the other 12 games in those 13 years have seen about 5.7, 5.8 runs scored per game, and the winning team averages about 4 runs per game tops. And so there's no real good lines out there right now yet for the All-Star game itself. But I would tend to look to play an under again if the line is reasonable. You've got really no pitchers who are really snubbed outside of Bayo as far as getting selected to the All-Star game. And then Kirby at first I thought would be a snub, but he got named to the All-Star roster yesterday or the day before now. So you're going to get the best. And again, you've got, fewer bats now. Mike Trout's out. I didn't see if Ohtani's going to play with the blister or not. But the bottom line is you've got, again, advantages, I think, to the pitchers.
Do you do anything with a home run derby as well or not?
Yeah, I like to play around with the home run derby, guys. And, it's one of those things where I look at they do these by brackets. And I'll look and see who's got the toughest and who's got in relative terms, the easiest way to get through the first couple of rounds. And, I know everybody is looking at Alonso right now, and he is the favorite to win the tournament. He's right around plus 300, plus 250 in that neighborhood, and everybody's jumping all over him. But, man, if Alonso's even going to get to the finals, he's got to beat Rodriguez from Seattle. He's got to beat, in all likelihood, Guerrero Jr. from Toronto. And I know Vlad isn't having this huge home run year, but he's like third in the league when it comes to the rate of speed coming off his bat. And he's not hitting the long ball like we thought he would in Toronto this year with those fences brought in. But again, he's hammering the ball no matter where he hits it. So he'd have to go through Rodriguez in the first round, Betts or Guerrero Jr. in the second round. It's probably going to be Guerrero Jr. You look at the first round of the other bracket, you got Garcia going against the Rosarina. That's a very tough matchup right there. And I think if I saw right, that's about $1.30 in favor of Garcia in that matchup. And then the other matchup on the other side is Robert against Rutschman. And I like Robert. I think he cruises into the second round, potentially gets to that final bracket, and would face Alonso, Rodriguez, or Guerrero. So for me, breaking it down that way, guys, I think Luis Guerrero is not a bad option at plus 450 to win the home run tournament.
Scott Spreitzer, DocSports.com. All right, one quick one. We're 65 days till the Cardinals home opener, that is. And I'm curious, looking at NFL win totals. Jack shot you a text earlier today. And, you're pretty intrigued about Colts, aren't you?
Yeah, I've already made 5 or 6 over-under wins bets for the NFL this year, and I played the Colts over 6.5, and I saw the juice most recently a couple of days ago. You had to lay anywhere from $1.20 to $1.40 for them to go over that 6.5. But, look at what happened last year. They tied that season opener against Houston, and they followed that with that ugly loss to the Jaguars. And then they go 3-1 their next 4 games, including a win over Kansas City, but then the wheels fell off. And I should say that when I look at over-under wins totals, I look for teams that are coming off a season where they were at one extreme or the other, in that, like, for instance, the Colts were so many people's pick to challenge in the AFC, to win the AFC against either Kansas City or the Buffalo Bills, and they fell flat on their face. That's a team that I'm going to look to come back to maybe close to where they were expected to be the year before. Maybe not like a contender for the AFC, but to win more games, because everybody's basing. They went from, the Colts are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the AFC to having a horrible year winning 4 games. All right, so when I look at those 4 games that they won and how they lost 12 games and tied 1, I see that they had a quarterback in Matt Ryan who had no chance. He was behind an offensive line that failed the offense. They gave up a bunch of sacks. So you got Minshew, eventually Anthony Richardson, a couple of the guys who could move. They got an upgraded offensive line. Jonathan Taylor is back at running back, solid wide receiving core. And guys, last year, Indy had 6 one-score losses. And they had 7 games where they went 0-6-1 by a grand total of 20 points. They had 3 losses by 1 point each. And if you factor in the overtime, they went 0-3-1 by a grand total of 3 points. That's how close this team was to winning 8 or 9 games last year, with a lot of problems up front on offense. So they're better in all their categories and all their units, especially up front, have a more mobile quarterback. And I really believe 8 wins is not out of the question for this team.
Scott, have a great weekend. Enjoy the summer basketball. Appreciate your time today, as always.
Got to get those Spurs in by more than 6, guys.
Thanks. Check him out. Scott Wins on Twitter, DocSports.com, as 83% is the number he's winning in WNBA.
He's unbelievable
in
W. I looked at his website. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. He's brought to you today by All City Towing, as they are growing. They have added a bunch of trucks. Their fleets are getting bigger. They're the biggest in the state, and they need people. And if you're